Hi all, and welcome to a somewhat flawed beer review. I essentially overwrote my last review. After having technical difficulties beforehand, you can see I've already poured myself a glass. Unfortunately, it's from an expensive bomber, so I can't go and redo this by opening another bottle, which is what I usually do. So, what I am reviewing tonight is a very special beer, so it's somewhat tragic that I lost the last review. And this is Lanikai Brewing Company's Pillbox Porter. This is a vanilla porter. Porter brewed with real vanilla beans. I believe the vanilla is grown here in state. So, let me talk about the company here. This is the first craft brewery to be opened in my own town, which is Kailua, Hawaii. Fairly small town, under 40,000 people. Big tourist hub, really gentrifying. I'm probably going to not be able to afford to live here pretty soon. But enough about my problems. So this is the first of the two breweries that are planning to open. They're either opened or slated to open here in Kailua. And this is, one of two beers that they make. So this is the Porter. The other is the Imperial IPA. Now, let me read the bottle here. This robust brew features sweet malts and caramel notes balanced by a touch of hot bitterness and a spicy herbal aroma. Now this is way too warm right now, but I'm going to be straight here, it's a great beer, okay? So I'm going to try to remember most of my notes from when it was colder and before my computer decided to be a butthead and die on me. And hopefully it won't do it again. Now this is 6.5 ABV. So a little bit on the strong side for a porter, but still eminently sessionable. Here I am drinking it right now. So, I'm going to pour the rest of it into a fresh glass, because I always like to go and do my reviews from a fresh, clean glass. Give it a bit more head than last time. So the coloration is a perfectly opaque brown, just a little bit of light seeping in from the corners, with a tannish brown, thick frothy head. It is very well carbonated. Definitely what hits you first is vanilla. Very sweet floral vanilla. Underneath that are roasted malts, which predominantly lean more towards the chocolate side as opposed to the coffee side. It gives off very much a hint of Hawaiian chocolate. And that's probably the influence of vanilla there. Hawaiian chocolate kind of, to me, has more of a floral note to it. Now right now it's a little bit too warm, so it's and I prefer smelling it from this glass too, the actual stout glass. Excuse me. Very sweet for a porter. Very sweet smelling, that is. Very floral. You get a hint of fresh vanilla. Not the sort of vanilla you get from oak barrel aging, but, vegetal vanilla, herbal vanilla. It melts very well with the roastiness. You're initially hit by sweetness. Then the taste of vanilla that lasts from the start, the mid, to the finish. It's a very effervescent note. You don't really taste it on your tongue. You get a big hit of it up in your sinuses. The body is fairly light for the style, as are most beers brewed in Hawaii. A somewhat creamy mouthfeel while still light, but big taste. Now what's interesting with this beer is when you drink it very quickly, like I'm doing right now, flavor profile changes somewhat. The bitter elements of the malts peak more and more through, and the sweetness diminishes. And you get the sense of sort of milk chocolate in the front that sort of changes to a dark chocolatiness to a very dark roasted coffee finish that melds with that very herbal hop bitterness that sort of lasts and lasts and lasts on the palate for quite a time. Excuse me. It's a wee bit too warm right now, so I'm trying to gather into my head. So what happens when a beer gets too warm? Same thing that happens when a beer is too cold. You lose the full flavor definition of the beer. So the spectrum is muted. In coldness, what happens is you get lots of the sort of primary flavors that hit your tongue, but you don't get much of the nuanced kind of herbal flavors, secondary flavors. When a beer is too warm, especially a dark malted beer, the the dark malts start to predominate overly much. That said, it's not unpleasant to drink when it's warm, especially this kind of beer. It's just not as good as it would be at the ideal temperature. Very pleasant vanilla note, melds very well with the dark roastedness. Again, it sort of brings up an almost milk chocolate-like taste in the front. So what can we say before more of the alcohol goes to my head? Again, most of these reviews are done with me being sober and just having the first beer. This is the first one I've had where I've already polished off most of the beer. Let's just say, I hope I never have to do this when we're drinking like some bottle-aged stout. That would be almost painful to do. But, so, what can I say about this beer? Well, it is great to have a beer that's brewed in the town I live in, which is not a very large town. And it's great that there's more and more craft breweries popping up in my state, which has been pretty bereft of them for a while. Now, this is a bit expensive. It's about $10 for this bomber here, which is more expensive than, which is about $4, $3 to $4 more expensive than most of the other basic bombers that you'll find in the liquor store at Tamura's. But, you know, things made in Hawaii cost a premium. Using good ingredients like, you know, quality malts that have to be imported overseas from across the Pacific, and, you know, local ingredients which are in high demand and more expensive, like vanilla beans. You gotta give them that little markup there to make a profit. And, you know, what it boils down to is, here we have a great beer. So it's good on the craft level in that this is a pretty darn good, interesting, and well-made craft beer. And two, more importantly, it is a craft beer that states loudly, made in Hawaii, in that it has the trademark element of, I find a lot of Hawaiian craft beers, a lighter body for a relatively lighter body for the style of beers that is being brewed, and two, a taste profile and ingredients that can only be found in Hawaii. Sorry, I'm having trouble cognating my verbs right now and cogitating without a whole bunch of liquid alcohol just sort of sloshing around in my head. In fact, I could probably sound a little bit messy right now. Sloppy, perhaps. So, you're not going to find this on the mainland. Which is, you know, I'm not the kind of person who's going to say, haha, you can't have this. Because I'm not the kind of person who, I'm not that kind of person. It's a great beer. It's a great Hawaiian beer. If any of you are interested in bottle trades for, say, something like this, or, you know, the Big Island Brewhouse ones, which aren't really distributed except in a few small locations on the West Coast, you know, I'm willing to do a bottle trade. We don't get anything East Coast here, let's put it that way. East Coast and very little from the Midwest. So, Pillbox Porter, if you're in Hawaii, give it a shot. Drink local, drink proud. If you really want to try it, again, I'm willing to do a bottle trade. And that's your beer review for tonight. Your buggy, error-prone, but still, in the end, successful beer review for tonight. Cheers.